The life of a typical college student unfolds like a glossy brochure. Picturesque campus, hopeful freshmen, and the ever-swirling breeze of youthful dreams and potential romance. Meanwhile, Choi Chang-wook, a second-year returnee, trudges through it all with the enthusiasm of a man reading his own obituary. He firmly believes he's miles away from that picture-perfect campus life, mostly because he belongs to the engineering school, a place where individuality dies and everyone dresses like they've been copy-pasted from a tech startup's worst-dressed list. The air smells like burnt coffee and existential crisis, with a generous helping of cigarette smoke. Friendships here are more myth than reality. Personalities clash, interests diverge, and group chats die faster than group projects begin. As for the curriculum, it's a battlefield of impossible equations and soul-crushing lectures. Throw in the fact that the gender ratio is an awkward sausage fest, and it's not hard to see why Chang-wook feels like a monk trapped in a computer lab. He comes from an all-boys middle and high school background, a streak of estrogen-free education that continues right into college. After returning from military service instead of a fresh start, he lands back into this monochrome world. At this point, he's pretty sure the only women he'll ever interact with are the ones printed on his shampoo bottles. At the lecture hall, for general education, also known as the only building where the presence of females has been confirmed, Chang-wook sits alone, wearing a permanent frown like it's part of his uniform. Just a few rows down, a flock of eager guys trip over their words, offering their undying loyalty to one particular girl, promising to handle every speck of her research so she doesn't lift a delicate academic finger. The girl in question is Han Seola, aka the department's goddess. The first time Chang-wook got grouped with her on a project, he almost thought fate was finally cutting him some slack. That was 2 weeks ago. Alongside Seola was another female junior, Ha-yoon, and things looked promising. Seola, with a dazzling smile that could melt stress fractures, suggested Chang-wook be the group leader. His excitement lasted precisely 5 seconds. By week 2, reality hits harder than an overdue assignment. Seola effortlessly assigns herself the easiest task and proceeds to ghost the group with the professionalism of a seasoned magician. Every time there's work to do, she conjures up another excuse. Everything Seola conveniently skips doing ends up in the hands of her loyal legion of fanboys who currently buzz around her like interns around free pizza. Meanwhile, Chang-wook sits back, silently judging the absurdity of it all. 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks, and Seola hasn't so much as lifted a metaphorical finger. In stark contrast, Ha-yoon, the quieter member of their trio, not only does her part but wraps it up with neat formatting and footnotes that don't look like they were written during a caffeine-induced panic attack. When Chang-wook reviews Ha-yoon's report, he's genuinely impressed. It's well-researched, clear, and actually useful, a rare miracle in group projects. He tells her it's really good, and Ha-yoon gives him a timid thank you, barely audible, over the sound of Seola's entourage offering to carry her laptop, her bag, and possibly her will to study. Ha-yoon's shy and slightly nerdy demeanor makes the lack of attention from the others feel even more glaring. No one even spares her a glance. They're too busy orbiting planet Seola. Feeling like the last voice of reason in a world gone mad, Chang-wook finally reminds Seola to complete her share before their next class. She gives him a smile that promises nothing, and he braces himself for disappointment. Class proceeds, and as it wraps up, the lecturer announces that group leaders need to submit their presentation topics to the TAs before leaving. Chang-wook makes his way over and hands in the paperwork to a blonde TA. She looks up, blinks a few times, then removes her cap and glasses with a flare straight out of a K-drama reveal. Apparently, this is supposed to jog his memory. It works. Vaguely. He recognizes her as someone who once tried to strike up a conversation, mentioning they were in the same year. Her name comes back to him. Yumin. He blurts out that he didn't expect her to be a TA. She fires back that she's even more shocked to see him in a first-year class. He shrugs and admits it's because his grades took a nosedive. Just then, a group of junior guys pass by and greet Yumin with synchronized nods and voices loud enough to echo. She returns the greetings like a celebrity on a red carpet. Before their conversation can continue, another batch of students passes, offering more greetings. Chang-wook stares, trying to figure out when their school became a boot camp. Then it clicks. Of course people flock to Yumin. She's approachable, chill, and has that easygoing vibe. Yumin casually mentions that she noticed Chang-wook is grouped with Seola, adding with a smirk that he looks like someone about to step on a landmine. Chang-wook blinks, unsure what she means, but part of him senses it's probably not a compliment. It doesn't take long before enlightenment hits. Later that night, Seola drops a message in the group chat claiming she can't do her report because her computer suddenly decided to die, probably from overexposure to her avoidance. As expected, the Guy Brigade springs into action, falling over themselves to offer technical support, emotional support, and possibly moral support for her fictional laptop. By the next class, the reality of Yumin's words comes crashing down. Seola struts in, not only alive and well, but with her personal assignments perfectly printed and neatly stapled. Meanwhile, the guys, sleep-deprived and dark-eyed, have clearly sacrificed their night to finish the very report she bailed on. At the lecture center, the scene unfolds like a live reenactment of a tragicomedy. The guys swarm around Seola, cooing that she doesn't need to worry because they handled everything for her. Seola flashes them a dazzling smile like a benevolent queen receiving offerings. Chang-wook, standing nearby, frowns so hard it might become permanent. Hyun, sharp-eyed despite her shy nature, notices his expression and stiffens. Chang-wook, "Finally done with the circus," calls out Seola. He reminds her, bluntly, that because she didn't do her part, the rest had to pick up the slack. And here she is, turning in her own homework while acting like she's too fragile to lift a pen. For the group. He points out that had she simply completed her report, they could have moved on to making the PowerPoint and actually started preparing their presentation. Instead, she's done nothing, and he declares that if this continues, he'll have to remove her name from the project. Seola looks like she's been struck by lightning. And then, classic plot twist, she starts crying, loudly, tearfully declaring that she wants to do her part, and if Chang-wook really wants to take her name off, then so be it. The room shifts instantly. The guys, now seeing Chang-wook as the villain of the story, start scolding him as if he just kicked a puppy on campus. Trying to salvage both his dignity and the project timeline, Chang-wook proposes a final deadline. The presentation is in 2 classes. If Seola doesn't finish her part by the weekend, then her name comes off for real. Surprisingly, Seola stops, crying immediately and chirps that she'll definitely do it, complete with sparkles in her eyes. Chang-wook, mildly alarmed by how fast the switch flipped, decides to let her off this time. By Saturday evening, just when the tension in Chang-wook's chest begins to ease slightly, a message flashes in the group chat. It's from Seola. She writes that her grandfather has passed away and that she won't be able to work on her portion of the report. The moment his eyes land on the message, something inside him twists. His jaw tightens and his fingers hover above the screen, tempted to type out every single thought boiling in his head. But he stops himself. He knows the script. Say anything, now, and he's the heartless one, the guy who doesn't respect grief. So instead, he slumps back onto his bed, the weight of helplessness pressing hard against his chest. Frustration sits with him like an uninvited guest, growing louder by the second. The room feels smaller, the air is heavier. And just when it seems like the night will end in angry silence, his phone buzzes again. Min-tae's name lights up the screen. An old friend from high school, the kind who believes life's disasters can be drowned in cold beer. The offer for a drink hangs on the screen. At first, Chang-wook thinks about saying no. There's still the project, still the deadline, still the mess. But then her name floats back into his head. That report, that excuse, that message. His chest burns a little, and before he even knows it, his thumbs are typing out a yes. The night air hits him like a sigh of relief as he steps out. He meets up with Min-tae, and the two begin wandering the streets, footsteps light and conversation. Easy? Somewhere along the way, Min-tae suggests another round of drinks. They head down a street lined with glowing signs until they come to a quieter place with dim lights and a warm atmosphere. It looks less like a bar and more like a secret escape. As they step inside, a lady greets them with a practiced smile. The bar is softly lit, filled with young women dressed neatly, many of them seated beside men who look far too relaxed for the problems they probably carry. Min-tae casually informs him it's a talking bar, one of those places where the drinks are optional, but the conversation is part of the package. The staff takes a glance at the two of them, college stress written all over their faces, and gently suggests that there are female students available, offering to send some over. Just then, a girl sitting at the far end of the bar catches their attention. Surrounded by older men, she carries herself with ease, a practiced charm in every gesture. The staff mentions that the girl is very popular, a favorite among the regulars. And then, the moment spins. The girl turns her head, and it's Seola. Everything pauses. Changwook's breath catches in his throat. Across the room, her eyes widen, and she sits frozen as if her world also just tilted sideways. There's no mistaking the look of someone caught completely off guard. And all at once, the message about her grandfather's passing feels like a slap from a ghost that never existed. The funeral, the mourning, the excuse. It all collapses under the bright, ironic lights of the bar. Seola approaches the table where Changwook and Min-tae are seated. Her usual smile is in place, but her eyes flicker with something uncertain as she sets the drinks down. She quickly notices that Changwook hasn't spoken a word since they sat down. He just keeps sipping from his glass, one after the other, like each drink is helping him swallow the anger he doesn't know what to do with. There's a tension around him that doesn't match the relaxed hum of the bar. Her gaze lingers, suspicious, and a little uneasy as she tries to read what's going on in his head. Meanwhile, Changwook is stuck in a whirlwind of thoughts. He doesn't touch the bar snacks, doesn't make conversation, doesn't even register half of what Min-tae says. All he can think about is Seola. The gall of her sitting across the room hours after texting the group about her grandfather's funeral.
His mind spins with frustration, ideas, and possible confrontations. But in the middle of all that storm, he doesn't realize how many drinks he's downed until his phone buzzes. It's a call from home. Something about the familiar ringtone brings him back to earth. Changwook mumbles to Min-tae that he's going to step outside to take the call and clear his head a bit. He drags himself toward the restroom, hoping to splash some water on his face and gather his thoughts before doing something stupid. But the moment he steps inside, things take a sharp turn. A hand grabs the collar of his shirt and yanks him inside one of the toilet stalls. The door slams shut behind him, and before he can fully process what's happening, he finds himself staring at Seola in close quarters, her expression tense and frantic. She wastes no time. She demands to know if he's told anyone what he saw tonight. The irritation flickers back into Changwook's eyes. Her voice may be low, but the desperation in it only fuels his annoyance. He snaps back, pointing out the ridiculousness of it all. How the supposedly innocent, sweet-faced engineering student is actually moonlighting at a talking bar. Her image, all polished and perfect, now cracked wide open. Seola immediately tries to shift the mood. She backpedals, offering him a meal if he keeps quiet. A weak bribe. It only makes things worse. Changwook isn't playing along. He calls her out again, sharper this time. She counters by offering to finally do her part of the research. But that only makes him laugh dryly, shaking his head in disbelief. The presentation is in less than 2 days, and everyone else has already finished the part she left undone. Seola's voice softens. She starts explaining that she has her reasons, eyes wide, trying to appear vulnerable. But Changwook doesn't budge. His frustration boils over as he throws her excuses back in her face. She cried when she was cornered. She gave excuses when she was supposed to take responsibility. He was stupid enough to expect even the bare minimum, a simple apology. Meanwhile, the rest of their team is staying up all night, pulling her weight while still worrying about her. And here she is, hiding behind false tears, protecting her own image. Seola yells back, her voice suddenly sharp, claiming he's the worst for pressuring an underclassman just for missing a bit of work. But the fire in her tone dims quickly, replaced by fear. She pleads again, voice trembling now. If word about her job gets out, she says, she won't be able to show her face at school again. They eventually reach a quiet agreement inside the cramped restroom stall. Seola promises to handle her part of the group work properly from now on, while Changwook agrees to keep her secret tightly locked away. Come Monday, the group is gathered at a cozy cafe they frequent for their weekly meeting. The low hum of coffee machines and the scent of roasted beans fill the air. Changwook sits across from Seola and the other members, idly stirring his iced Americano while watching the scene unfold. The guys, as always, are quick to notice Sela's presence, and even quicker to praise her. They're genuinely surprised, almost as if they've spotted a unicorn, that she not only showed up but also submitted her part of the work on time. Chang-wook leans back in his chair, observing quietly. For once, Sela is early, engaged, and acting like a model student. He doesn't need a magic ball to figure out why. Her attendance and sudden diligence are less about group spirit and more about damage control. It's all written plainly on her face. She wants to protect her secret, and that means keeping him happy. He compliments her lightly, saying it's good she turned in her work, but then flips the script. His tone stays calm, but his words cut a little. There are plenty of mistakes in her report, and she needs to align her section with the others and make sure everything fits by tomorrow. The guys glance at each other, unease creeping in. They know Sela has a habit of vanishing when things get demanding. As expected, Sela plays her usual card, tilting her head and speaking with a pitiful voice, acting as if the deadline is just too much. She pouts slightly, adding a touch of drama, wondering aloud how she'll get everything done in such little time. But Chang-wook isn't buying it. He gives her a look, not harsh, but unmistakably pointed, like a silent nudge that says she knows why you need to do this. Sela picks up on the message immediately. Her demeanor shifts. She straightens up, clutches her arms for a bit of theatrical emphasis, and assures everyone she'll do it. The sudden switch in attitude makes the other members blink in confusion. One moment she's whining, the next she's determined. The performance is almost too quick. Chang-wook then turns his attention to Haeun's part of the project. He schemes through it and nods, clearly impressed. He says it looks perfect and casually adds that Haeun seems far more reliable than someone else. The indirect jab hangs in the air like a low buzz. Sela, catching every word, looks visibly tense. She knows it's not just a comparison. It's a warning. She clenches her hands a little under the table, likely thinking to herself that she just needs to push through, work harder, and keep her mouth shut if she wants her secret life to remain buried. The boys, still not in on the hidden tension, exchange glances. Something seems off. They can't help but wonder why Sela, normally so free-spirited, is suddenly listening to everything Chang-wook says like he's the group leader or worse, her parole officer. Unbeknownst to them all, someone else is listening too. A few tables behind them, Yumin sits with her drink, quietly observing the group. Her eyes flick toward Sela and then toward Chang-wook, the faintest hint of curiosity playing on her face. On campus, Chang-wook leans against a wall, a cigarette dangling from his fingers, his thoughts lingering on the difficulty of the class. The air is chilly, and the silence of the evening surrounds him. Just as he exhales a plume of smoke, he notices Yumin approaching. She remarks on the curious change in Sela's behavior, a topic that catches his attention more than he expects. Yumin's casual observation about the girls' rankings at school, a strange hierarchy defined not by looks or year, but by the status of their boyfriends, makes him pause. He listens intently as she explains Sela's position in this system, describing how older boys fawned over her from the moment she arrived, turning her into the goddess of the school. It seems that Sela has never really needed to pull her weight in group work. Her reputation and flirtations were enough to keep her ahead. Yumin's curiosity about Chang-wook's ability to make Sela so obedient only deepens as she talks. Chang-wook can't bring himself to mention the bar. Too much of a risk. But he offers a half-hearted explanation, suggesting it was his manliness that did the trick. Yumin bursts into laughter at his response, clearly not buying it. They move on to talk about Mincheol, who set up a fried chicken shop near the school. The conversation shifts from there, as Chang-wook grows increasingly aware of the strange, layered dynamics surrounding his classmates. After a brief exchange, Chang-wook says he needs to head out and work on his project. Before he leaves, Yumin remarks how nice it is to see an old, dependable classmate around. Someone who doesn't quite blend in with the crowd, but still feels familiar. Her words hang in the air as Chang-wook walks away, a quiet smile tugging at the corner of his lips, though it's unclear whether it's for her or just his own fleeting thoughts. Later, in the classroom, Chang-wook finds himself reflecting on the stark contrast between him and Yumin. While he has been skimming by, Yumin has been diligently studying. It's a small but significant realization. He wonders if she's depending on him now, whether his role here is truly something more than just being another face in the crowd. His phone buzzes, pulling him out of his thoughts. It's late, and with that reminder, he decides to leave. Stepping outside, he shivers as the cold air hits him. The campus is eerily quiet, the kind of stillness that feels both unsettling and peaceful. As he walks down the empty street, he catches a glimpse of Yumin passing by. For a brief moment, the thought of teasing her crosses his mind, maybe even giving her a small scare. But that thought quickly fades as something more practical takes over. He watches her walking alone, and the unease creeps up. It feels dangerous, the silence of the night and the empty streets, especially for someone walking by themselves. Without thinking much further, he decides to follow her, his steps quiet against the cold pavement, unsure of what exactly he's hoping to find. Chang-wook notices a couple of students walking toward him, and realizing the awkwardness of the moment, he quickly excuses himself and heads home. Once there, he starts searching frantically for his wallet, turning over every surface and rummaging through drawers. He even goes back to school to check the lecture room, but his wallet is nowhere to be found. As he searches, a thought crosses his mind. Maybe Yumin has taken it. After all, she's the last person he saw before losing it. A few days pass, and Yumin never calls him. He figures maybe she didn't even drop the wallet where she was.
Then one day, he sees her walking by, and to his surprise, 3 guys come up to greet her. She firmly tells them to stop, making it clear she isn't their friend. As she looks around, she glances over in his direction, claiming she thinks she's spotted someone she knows. Chang-wook, who has been hiding behind the guys like a ninja in plain sight, feels a bit embarrassed. Even though he hasn't gotten his wallet back, the thought of meeting her still makes him uncomfortable, and so he stays hidden, hoping she doesn't notice him. However, Seola spots him, and she wastes no time rushing over to him, calling out his name. Chang-wook is so lost in his thoughts that he doesn't notice her at first. She has to raise her voice and grab his hand to snap him out of it. At that moment, some students see them and wonder who Seola is talking to. Seola asks if he has checked his email about the assignment, to which Chang-wook replies he hasn't because he's been busy. Seola, a little sassy as always, reminds him that it's actually he who told her to hurry up and get it done. In return, Chang-wook teases her, pretending he's about to reveal one of her secrets. This makes Seola absolutely livid, and she slams her hand on the door, shouting that she clearly remembers paying the price, so he should just stop with the teasing. The students around them start whispering, watching the scene unfold. Great, now they're definitely the center of attention. After the little outburst, Seola hurries off, telling Chang-wook to check his email when he has the time. Chang-wook, noticing the growing chatter around him, quickly makes his exit, feeling like he needs to escape before things get any more awkward. However, he's later seen being bombarded by other members of the group, who ask him how he got so close to Seola, and even convinced her to do the assignment. Chang-wook feels a little uneasy under the sudden scrutiny, but tries to shrug it off, though it's clear he's not entirely comfortable with the attention. Guess they're not used to seeing him like this. Later, after class, Chang-wook is spotted by Yumin, who remarks that they haven't seen each other for a while. Chang-wook, feeling awkward and caught off guard, immediately decides it's time to take his leave. He claims he has work to do, hoping to make a quick exit. To his surprise, Yumin returns his wallet, and he pretends to be confused, asking how it ended up with her. Yumin is at Chang-wook's place, teasing him about how they're now partners in being exhibitionists. Chang-wook, clearly not enjoying the joke, snaps at her, telling her to stop doing that because it's too dangerous. Yumin, unfazed, asks if he knows why she's been acting that way on campus. She explains that it's hard to believe, but she went to an all-girls school, so she never really had a chance to talk to boys. When she came to the engineering school, she heard the rumors about how it was mostly filled with men. At first, it was unfamiliar, but she quickly found it fun. Talk about a dramatic change of scenery. Suddenly, Yumin realizes that they're going to be late for class, and they both rush out the door. No time for more deep conversation, just the chaos of student life. A few days later, Chang-wook walks through campus, reflecting on how things have returned to normal after some incidents. The team project he and Seola had clashed over ended successfully. Now, without any reason to interact, Seola has become just an existence out of his reach once again. He's back to his loner life, or so he thinks. But then, out of nowhere, he's smacked on the back. Turning around, he sees Yumin greeting him, and they continue their walk together. Chang-wook notices that her style seems to have changed, and he asks her if she's not feeling cold. Yumin, ever playful, jabs at him and asks if he's worried about her. He wants to say something, but before he can get the words out, she punches him to make him stop. Guess she's got a way of keeping him on his toes. Chang-wook notices the guys around them sneaking glances in their direction, and he starts to feel awkward. Realizing that walking with a pretty girl draws attention, he starts to think it's best to get away quickly. He comes up with an excuse about having a class and decides to run off. He feels it's probably better for both of them if they avoid any strange rumors that might start. Yeah, being seen with a girl like that could definitely lead to some wild speculation. To his surprise, Yumin starts running with him. She casually explains that the professor is always late, so it's fine for her to skip out of her own way. For a bit, Chang-wook tells her she doesn't need to follow him, but she doesn't seem to mind. She's already set on sticking with him. Classic Yumin, making her own rules. Meanwhile, the guys nearby start discussing whether Yumin and Chang-wook are actually that close. One of them can't help but wonder if they might be dating, but the others quickly dismiss the idea, saying it's not possible. Around the same time, Seola is spotted with the group. As usual, she catches their attention, and they all admire her from a distance. Seems like Seola is always the center of attention. Later, as the evening rolls in, Chang-wook finds himself in the lecture room, realizing that a lot of time has passed. He figures it's probably time to start packing up. Just as he's about to gather his things, he hears someone enter. He turns to find that it's Seola. She claims she's here to work on her assignment, casually telling him to mind his own business. Yet, instead of sitting at another seat, she proceeds to sit right beside him. Chang-wook finds it a bit weird, especially given how she always acts like she's in charge of everything around her. Well, this is going to be an interesting evening. Chang-wook and Seola are both seen working on their computers in the lecture room. Chang-wook, however, seems to be struggling to concentrate. He starts wondering if it's better for him to just leave. He gets up from his seat, preparing to walk out, but Seola stops him, handing him a canned drink. She asks if they can talk for a moment. Seola casually mentions that he seems to be doing well these days, having fun with a woman and all. Chang-wook wonders if she's talking about Yumin. She then says that she's been worried every day, fearing he might tell someone about her. Chang-wook, slightly irritated, reminds her that he's already promised to keep her secret. He asks her to wait a moment as he types something on his phone. Seola appears visibly nervous, which doesn't go unnoticed by him. He reassures her, telling her that he's not going to tell anyone, so she doesn't have to worry. Seola admits that it's exactly that. Every little thing he does makes her nervous. Chang-wook, trying to lighten the situation, asks her if she can't just quit the job, considering he doesn't have any proof anyway. Seola responds that she'll quit after next month. He then asks her why she keeps bothering him, to which she replies that she doesn't trust him. Chang-wook, now growing annoyed, retorts that maybe he should just meet her expectations and write it on a poster. He's about to leave the lecture room, fed up with the situation. But then, he hears Seola say that she'll do it one more time, and properly this time. It's like a never-ending loop, and Chang-wook wonders if he'll ever get a break from all this drama. Ha-yoon walks into the lecture room and approaches Chang-wook, seeking his advice on how to be more social and learn from him. She admits that it's a difficult challenge for her, and she's feeling a bit lost. She observes that Chang-wook seems to get along with everyone and is quite popular, which surprises him since he doesn't see himself that way. But Ha-yoon insists, mentioning that she's shy and introverted, and that even though there aren't many girls in the engineering school, she thought they would form a bond. Unfortunately, she finds that the girls mostly keep to themselves, playing solo. She goes on to talk about how pretty girls like Seola seem to have an easy time hanging out with boys, even if they don't interact much with other girls. But when it comes to Chang-wook, she notices something different. Seola, despite her usual aloofness, becomes more candid and comfortable around him, and the boys seem to talk about Chang-wook a lot. Ha-yoon even notices how Chang-wook and Yumin appear to have a close friendship. Hyun expresses her desire to get along with people like Chang-wook or Seola, wishing she could be more like them. However, Chang-wook, unable to stop his internal laughter, realizes that Hyun has a completely wrong impression of him as a popular, outgoing person. He tries to explain that he's not really the best person to give advice on this matter, but Hyun insists that he is always kind, even to someone like her, to which Chang-wook reassures her that there's nothing wrong with her. He adds that women can look different depending on how they style themselves, and that Hyun is hiding her own beauty. She's pretty enough, he tells her, even though she doesn't realize it. Grateful for his words, Hyun thanks him for his help with the team project and prepares to leave. But just as she's about to walk out, she suddenly returns to the room, only to find Seola and Chang-wook together. Talk about a plot twist. Seola nearly dies from the ridiculous situation she finds herself in. Just as she's about to breathe a sigh of relief, she hears footsteps approaching the door. In an instant, Ha-yoon walks in, catching both of them off guard. Seola and Chang-wook freeze, stunned to be caught. Ha-yoon, seemingly surprised to see Seola in the room, claims she forgot something. Her eyes flicker between them, clearly confused. Before she can finish her sentence, Seola quickly denies any suspicions, insisting she's just here to work on her assignments. Chang-wook's heart skips a beat. He silently prays that Ha-yoon won't notice Seola's lack of clothes, because if she does, well, he'd have some serious explaining to do. He lets out a relieved sigh when he sees that Seola is dressed. He immediately shoots Ha-yoon a sharp response, trying to hide his nervousness. Ha-yoon, still looking bewildered, tells Seola that she didn't notice her when she first entered. Seola, at first unsure of how to respond, quickly covers her tracks, casually mentioning that she was just hiding. She then smartly adds that she didn't want to be seen with someone like him at this hour. It could lead to some unwanted rumors. She playfully hints at how embarrassing it would be if anyone got the wrong idea. Chang-wook, still shaking from the close call, internally commends Seola for her quick thinking, but deep down, he can't ignore the nagging thought. Did she really feel that way about him? He jokes to himself that if it's true, it would sting, but he'll live. As his mind races, he's even more puzzled when Ha-yoon, of all people, defends him. Ha-yoon grows visibly upset as she faces Seola, her voice sharp and filled with emotion. She finds the words Seola used, someone like him, and embarrassing, to be far too cruel. The weight of those phrases lingers in the air like a slap, and Ha-yoon doesn't bother to hide how hurtful she finds them. Seola freezes in place, caught completely off guard. She never expects Ha-yoon to snap at her like that, and for a moment, she doesn't even know how to respond. Frustration bubbles up as her thoughts scramble for an exit, and she finally mutters that she has things to do. Without waiting for a response, she waves them off and hurries out of the room, the sound of her footsteps echoing down the hallway. Ha-yoon stands there in shock, her brows furrowed in confusion. She calls after Seola, stepping toward the door, but by the time she looks out, Seola has already disappeared. Still puzzled, she turns toward Chang-wook, only to let out a loud, startled scream as her hand flies up to cover her eyes. Chang-wook, deep in his thoughts about how cleverly Seola had deflected suspicion just moments earlier, is completely caught off guard. He turns slowly toward Ha-yoon, unsure why she's reacting so dramatically, until he glances down and finally realizes the tragic state he's in. In the chaos of the moment, he has forgotten something very basic, like pants. Panic floods his system as he turns around in a blur and fumbles to cover himself, his voice rushed and apologetic as he tries to explain the absurd situation. His dignity makes a quick dash for the window as he mentally accepts defeat. Inside, he already starts mourning the loss of his reputation. The next morning, Seol-ah strolls across campus, her expression calm but her thoughts anything but. Students greet her as she passes, especially the boys who seem to find 1,000 reasons to notice her today. She returns the greetings with a light nod, but her mind wanders back to the night before. The memory of Ha-yoon's outburst still lingers. The way she stood up for Chang-wook felt intense. Seol-ah begins to wonder if Ha-yoon harbors feelings for him, and the thought unsettles her more than she expects. Still, she tells herself that Chang-wook doesn't seem like the type to get involved in anything meaningful. To her, he's just a returning student with a questionable sense of timing, and possibly a permanent allergy to shirts. Chang-wook lets out a heavy sigh as he walks across campus, the memory of last night playing on a loop in his mind. He still can't shake the image of Ha-yoon walking in on him without pants, an experience now permanently etched into the hall of his most embarrassing moments. Deep down, he's grateful that she seemed to believe Seola's excuse and didn't ask too many questions. But the more he thinks about it, the more convinced he becomes that she probably sees him as a textbook campus pervert now. The thought makes him groan out loud without realizing, startling a couple of students nearby who glance at him like he's lost in a tragic drama. And honestly, he kind of is. Just as he's dragging himself toward class, he hears someone call his name. He flinches slightly, on edge, only to turn and see Seola approaching. His shoulders relax a bit as he lets out a small sigh of relief, quietly muttering under his breath like he's just dodged a bullet. Seola, however, narrows her eyes at his odd expression. She can't tell if he's relieved, nervous, or just malfunctioning. She keeps her voice casual as she asks if nothing happened yesterday, her way of reminding him, with the subtlety of a brick, to keep his mouth shut about her being in his room. Chang-wook nods slowly, offering a vague, "I guess," that sounds more like he's trying to convince himself than anyone else. As they walk side by side for a few steps, something clicks in his memory, and he stops abruptly. He turns back to her, looking like he just remembered he left the stove on, and tells her he has something for her. Seola raises an eyebrow, suddenly curious, and asks if he's sure it's meant for her. With zero dramatic buildup and a complete lack of self-preservation, Chang-wook pulls out her bra and singlet from his bag like he's showing off a new phone case. Seola stares in frozen horror, the color draining from her face. At that exact moment, Ha-yoon, who happens to be nearby, turns and sees the tragic performance unfolding live. Her eyes widen, her mouth drops open, and she marches straight toward him, smacking his back like she's trying to knock some sense into it. Her voice is sharp as she scolds him, completely mortified that he would whip out someone's undergarments in broad daylight like it's a group project. People around them start to take notice, especially a few engineering department students and former teammates of Chang-wook's, who begin whispering as they take in the scene. Their former project teammates stand nearby, watching Chang-wook and Seola interact with puzzled expressions. The closeness between the two makes little sense to them. Back during their group assignment, they had always been the ones going easy on Seola, helping her whenever she claimed to be sick or came up with excuses not to do her part. They had picked up the slack without complaint and never expected anything in return. One of them reminds the others that Chang-wook, Seola, and he were in the same team for that assignment. But another teammate frowns, pointing out that Chang-wook used to be the harshest on Seola. He had told her off the most. That's what makes it so strange. Why would she get close to someone like that? Off to the side, Min-soo, who wasn't even part of the original team, jumps into the conversation. He recalls how kind everyone had been to Seola during the project. They helped her a lot, he says, but the others quickly shut him down, reminding him he wasn't actually in the group, so his opinion doesn't count. As they speak, the group's attention shifts once more. Yumin appears nearby, her presence pulling eyes toward her. She looks even prettier than usual, so much so that one of the guys quietly mutters that she's the only girl he ever dreams about. But even his admiration doesn't distract them from returning to the usual topic, complaining about Chang-wook. They mock him, wondering why every beautiful girl in engineering seems to be drawn to him. Yumin, with her usual sharp expression, walks straight toward Chang-wook. Her steps are fast, her gaze fixed. She asks why he ignored her message the day before, clearly annoyed. But Chang-wook, confused, acts like he never even saw the message. The boys nearby exchange glances, more confused and irritated. Just moments ago, Seol-ah had walked off quietly. Now Yu-min is here, clearly angry but still giving Chang-wook direct attention. Yu-min's tone softens slightly as she asks how he managed to make Seol-ah behave so differently around him. She seems cuter with him, she notes. Chang-wook doesn't know what to say. He thinks about it for a second. Maybe it's all the weird, awkward situations they've been in together. Maybe those moments changed something. Still, he isn't sure. He wonders if bizarre circumstances really lead to real feelings. Days pass. Seol-ah doesn't say anything to him. No messages, no small talk. Her silence starts to bother him. 1. Morning while heading across campus, he overhears two students chatting. One asks the other if he knows someone named Room from the school community page. The name sounds unfamiliar to Chang-wook, but something makes him stop and listen. The boy explains that Room is a secret account that posts nude pictures every night. His friend is stunned, asking if the photos are actually of her body. The boy confirms, saying the woman has a stunning figure. He adds that the photos often seem to be taken around the engineering department, which makes them think the account owner might be one of their classmates. Hearing this, Chang-wook pulls out his phone and searches for the account. The latest photo is still up. As he stares at it, a strange feeling creeps up his spine. He shakes his head quickly. There's no way someone like that is from his department. Then a voice calls from behind. It's Yumin. And in that moment, Chang-wook's certainty begins to waver. As Yumin walks through the hallway, her pace slows when she hears her name called out. It's Chang-wook, which catches her off guard. He rarely approaches her first. With a curious look, she asks, "What's going on?" wondering what's made him take the initiative for once. Chang-wook asks if she has some time to talk. Without hesitation, Yumin tells him to wait at the smoking booth, assuring him she'll be right there. She walks off with a surprising spring in her step, a hint of excitement trailing behind her. Watching her go, Chang-wook finds himself wondering what exactly could make her that cheerful. As he waits by the booth, a fellow engineering student passes by and greets him casually. Chang-wook's eyes widened in surprise. It's the first time anyone has randomly greeted him like that. He gives a nod back, still processing the sudden social warmth. A short while later, Yumin returns. Chang-wook asks if she's done with her work, but she brushes off the question with a light smile. For graduate students, she says, there's no such thing as done. Still, she's already cleared time for him, so she gets straight to the point and asks why he wanted to see her. Chang-wook hesitates for a second, then pulls out his phone and shows her the infamous Roam account. He asks cautiously if she's the person behind it. Yumin leans in and glances at the screen, only to see the post is already deleted. Her expression shifts slightly as she taps around, eventually realizing the account is tied to their university's online community. She looks up, puzzled, and asks what's so strange about it. That's when Chang-wook explains. He tells her about the rumor surrounding the Roam account, the one known for uploading suggestive photos every night. As he describes it, Yumin's eyes widen in disbelief, and an involuntary exclamation escapes her. Then the mood shifts. She turns to him, her expression sharp and defensive. Her voice rises as she demands to know why he'd even ask her if she was the one behind an account like that. Her tone accuses him outright, suggesting that he must think she's the type to post such photos. An exhibitionist, maybe? But Chang-wook quickly waves it off, rushing to explain that he didn't mean it like that. He tries to calm the tension, telling her that he only brought it up because he's worried. Whoever the person is, posting images like that online is dangerous. He hadn't meant to accuse her, only to express concern. Yumin chuckles, feigning innocence, and teases him further, asking how it's dangerous. That gives Chang-wook a chance to explain. He recounts how some guys in their department had been talking about the Roam account, and how one even made a disturbing comment about what they'd do if they caught her. The implication had been ugly. He makes it clear that flaunting one's body, whether in person or through photos, doesn't automatically mean consent. And even someone like Yumin, who enjoys pushing boundaries, surely has her own lines that shouldn't be crossed. The word slips out as he tries to make his point, and Yumin responds with a punch to his arm, light but firm. Her smirk returns as she tells him slyly that maybe it'd be safer if he were with her instead of leaving her to the others. Their moment is cut short when they notice people nearby, voices and footsteps echoing. Yumin doesn't miss a beat. She suggests they relocate and leads him to one of the graduate labs. As the door clicks behind them, Chang-wook's nerves spike. He looks around, his voice low but urgent as he questions her sanity. If they get caught by another student, it would be bad enough. A professor? Career ending. But Yumin waves off, his concern saying her professor isn't on campus today, so there's nothing to worry about. Chang-wook narrows his eyes, skeptical. He asks if this whole thing is just her way of silencing him, a tactic to make him drop the topic. But Yu-min only grabs his hand with a mischievous glint in her eyes and says she's just excited. His gaze shifts to the corner of the room where a mattress lies on the floor. It catches him off guard. Disbelief colors his face as he points at it, asking what that's even doing there. Yu-min avoids his stare, her voice nonchalant as she says he'll find out once they start whatever it is they came in for. Yu-min often thinks back to a few years ago, a time when everything felt new and confusing. She remembers how nervous she was when she first thought about getting close to Chang-wook in a way she hadn't with anyone else. Her heart beat too fast, her hands wouldn't stop shaking, and her mind kept racing with all sorts of worries. But in the middle of all that mess, Chang-wook stayed calm. He gave her the kind of quiet reassurance that didn't need many words. He made her feel like it was okay to be scared, and even more okay to take things slow. Classic Chang-wook, like a walking, talking comfort blanket. Back in her university days, though, things were not so simple. Her very first boyfriend turned out to be a bad idea wrapped in good looks. He wasn't kind, and he didn't make her feel safe. Because of that, Yu-min never allowed herself to get close to him. It wasn't just about the boyfriend, though. At the time, she blamed herself. She thought maybe she just liked weird things. Weird how? She wasn't even sure. She even started wondering if the real problem was that she didn't actually feel anything for the guy at all. Maybe her heart had checked out before things even started. And so, without ever being hurt by a man or sharing anything intimate, with one, she still ended up trying out those odd private habits on her own. Just her and her imagination. Who needs a partner when you've got curiosity and a locked door? Now, fast forward to the present. Here she is, with Chang-wook again. They've just done their usual weird thing, which by now isn't that weird anymore. It's more like a routine with occasional giggles and tangled clothes. After they finish and start getting dressed, there's that familiar quiet between them. Not awkward, just soft and comfortable, like two people tying their shoelaces before heading out. As they get ready to leave, Chang-wook suddenly brings up a video he saw. His tone gets a bit serious, like a parent warning a child not to touch the stove. He starts warning her not to talk about the video, but Yu-min, without even blinking, cuts him off. She waves off the idea completely, letting him know it wasn't even her in the first place. It was Ah-room, that other girl. Chang-wook feels completely shocked when he realizes that Yu-min is not actually Ah-room. He has been thinking all along that she was the girl in the video, and now that she says otherwise, his mind starts spinning. He begins to wonder who the girl could really be. Yu-min, on the other hand, thinks the mystery girl has a body shape similar to some of the girls in their department. She casually suggests that it might be Seo-hyun or Seol-ah pretending to be Ah-room. She doesn't sound too sure, but the idea seems possible. Then, she advises Chang-wook that if the real Ah-room ever shows up again in the community, he should just give her a quiet warning to stop whatever she's doing. She remembers how seriously Chang-wook spoke about the situation before, especially the part where he said it could be a big problem if someone found out about Ah-room's private interests and tried to use it against her. Still, Yu-min is too curious to let it go. She begs Chang-wook to screenshot the girl's picture from the video. She says she just wants to see how attractive the body really is, because the whole situation has made her imagination run wild. After that, she tells Chang-wook she has other things to take care of and decides to leave. They go their separate ways for the day. A few days later, Chang-wook receives an email reminding him that his exam is coming up. He sighs as he thinks about how he doesn't have anyone to exchange information with. Since he is an outsider, he knows that once again he'll be studying all by himself, just like usual. While he's still sitting there in his thoughts, someone suddenly calls out his name. He turns around and sees a guy he doesn't recognize. The guy is also a student and mentions that they were once in the same group, but Chang-wook, honestly, has no memory of his face. It's awkward, but the student doesn't seem to care. He introduces the class he's in now and acts like they've been good friends all along. Chang-wook starts to feel a bit strange about it. He wonders why students he barely knows are being so friendly with him all of a sudden. It feels too familiar, almost like they know something he doesn't. He hopes it's nothing bad, but a small part of him stays alert, just in case. Just like that, the male student starts following Chang-wook to his class and even decides to sit next to him. At first, when Seola spots Chang-wook, she considers going over to greet him, but when she sees the male student sticking to him like glue, She hesitates and decides to hold back. As the day goes on, the male student starts to get Chang-wook to pay for his lunch and dinner, which takes him by surprise. Chang-wook wonders if it's okay to pay for his underclassman's food. It feels a little off, but the student doesn't seem to care. Later, the male student asks if Chang-wook wants to study together for the exam, but Chang-wook, not interested in spending any more time with him, politely declines. That's when the male student drops a bombshell. He admits that he initially thought Chang-wook was the type to seduce female students every day since he's always alone.
The student came to meet him thinking he might get caught up in some drama, but after seeing how things really were, he realized he was completely wrong. With a chuckle, the male student says he'll leave now, but makes sure to let Chang-wook know that he'll definitely be back whenever he's looking for something free. Chang-wook doesn't know what to make of that, but he's glad when the student walks away. Once the male student leaves, Chang-wook decides not to dwell on it. He'd rather focus on finding a quiet spot to study. When he arrives at a peaceful place, he spots an empty seat next to a young lady. At first, he doesn't bother checking who's sitting next to him. But later, as he looks up, his eyes widen in surprise. It's Seola. What catches his attention first is her hair, the way she styled it. It makes her look even more beautiful than usual. Seola, on her end, is also happy to see him, though she doesn't let it show. She casually asks why he came to this place alone and wonders what happened to the male student who was hanging around him earlier in the day. Chang-wook can instantly tell from Seola's tone that her question is driven by jealousy. He decides to confront her about it. Seola tries to play it cool, pretending she's not jealous at all. Instead of responding to his comment, she just asks him to stop using formal language with her, hinting that they're not strangers anymore. Not long after, Seola stands up. Chang-wook thinks she's about to leave, but then she casually mentions she's just going to the restroom. While she's gone, Chang-wook's phone buzzes. It's another message from Ariam, and this time, it includes some pictures. He stares at the images, trying to figure out who it could be. Then, a thought crosses his mind. He remembers that it was just when Seola went to the restroom that he received the message. Could it be that Ariam is actually Seola? He begins to wonder if the timing is more than just a coincidence. Immediately, Chang-wook jumps up from his seat and rushes to the men's restroom, convinced that Seola must be hiding there, the one who sent those pictures. But when he enters, he's taken aback. The restroom looks completely different from what he saw in the pictures, and there's no sign of Seola. Instead, he only meets a man who came in to use the restroom. The layout isn't even close to matching what was in the photo, and that throws Chang-wook off even more. Feeling confused and a little frustrated, Chang-wook decides to sit in the restroom for a moment, trying to think things through. He starts wondering what he should do next, eventually coming up with an idea. He decides to leave a comment for Seola, warning her to stop whatever it is she's doing. He types up a message, lying that he knows her true identity, hoping it'll make her back off. But as soon as he posts it, things take an unexpected turn. Some people in the comment section attack him, accusing him of just trying to grab Ariam's attention. That wasn't his intention at all, but the backlash makes him rethink his approach. After a few more comments, he decides to stop commenting for now. He hopes the idea of him knowing who the girl really is will make whoever Ariam is think twice and get scared. Still feeling unsettled, Chang-wook tries to calm down and think of what to do next. He glances back at the pictures Ariam sent him. The background in them looks oddly familiar, like a place he's been to before. He tries to remember, and after a moment, it clicks. The room Ariam was using looks like the computer lab on the 5th floor of the Science and Engineering building. He often goes there because not many people use it, and the building is just next to the library. With his heart racing, Chang-wook figures that if he runs, he might still be able to catch up to her. Without wasting another second, he hurries out of the restroom, determined to get to the building as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Seola returns to the library, carrying 2 coffees, the kind of gesture that's supposed to be a sweet surprise. But when she reaches their usual spot, she's greeted by nothing but an empty chair. There's no sign of Chang-wook anywhere, and for a moment, she stands there, a little dumbfounded, trying to piece together where he could have gone. Annoyed, she taps her foot, staring at the spot where he should have been. Maybe he went to get something, maybe he's lost, maybe he just vanished into thin air. Either way, she's not happy. She decides to kill some time, fixing herself up in a bid to look even more stunning, just in case he miraculously comes back. She waits, glances around, checks her phone, and still no Chongwook. The frustration builds, like waiting for a bus that doesn't show up. Meanwhile, Chongwook is deep in the corridors, determined to figure out where Ariam might be. He's about to check the rooms when suddenly, a woman sprints past him, looking remarkably like Hyun. She's running so fast, her clothes are practically flying out of her arms like a fashion disaster in motion. She's out the door without a care in the world, leaving Chongwook to watch her in a mix of surprise and confusion. At first, he thinks about chasing her down, but then, like a cartoon character, his leg protests. It's been way too long since he last ran, and it hurts like he's just tried to sprint a marathon. Great timing, right? His chance to figure out what's going on vanishes as quickly as Hyun. Just when it seems like things can't get any worse, luck decides to play nice. As Hyun bolts off, her glasses fall, and she doesn't even notice. Chongwook, like a man on a mission, swiftly picks them up. He takes a close look, almost studying them with the kind of focus usually reserved for rare treasures. And then, like a detective in a bad movie, he tries to recall any electrical engineering students who might wear glasses like those. The name Hyun pops up, but he can't help but doubt it. Hyun, shy as a mouse. Chongwook starts feeling the weight of exhaustion creeping in, the dizziness sneaking up on him like a bad headache. Deciding he's had enough for the day, he heads toward home, but then it hits him. His bag is still at the library. Of course, right? So he takes a detour, hoping to grab it and just get on with the day. When he arrives, he notices something strange. A coffee cup sitting there, untouched. Seola's coffee, the one she bought for him. But she's nowhere to be found. As if things couldn't get worse, he sees a little note taped to the edge of the cup. It's her message. Apparently, she's already gone home, disappointed, leaving him with nothing but an empty coffee cup and a heavy heart. The next day, as Chongwook walks into school, he can't help but think about Hyun. The glasses were one thing, but he knows judging her based on just that wouldn't get him anywhere. Hyun's style tends to be loose-fitting, making it impossible to figure out anything about her body shape. But still, that mysterious connection lingers. He's about to get lost in the thought when reality smacks him across the face. Exams. The looming threat of tests and deadlines reminds him that his brain is better off focused on that than worrying about who might be behind those glasses or which body shape fits Ariam. He enters the building, trying to shake off his thoughts, when he notices a group of students gathered around a lady. Moving closer, he spots a familiar face among the crowd. It's Hyun, and she's looking at him, as if sensing his approach. As soon as she sees him, she steps away from the group and comes right over. She bows her head before him, and Chongwook, a little flustered, tries his best to mask his surprise. But the more he looks at her, the more things don't add up. She's not wearing glasses today, and her outfit, tight clothes that hug her shape, makes her look completely different. She looks, well, stunning. Chongwook can't help but wonder if this is really the same Hyun he's known. Is she really that beautiful? He's lost in thought, still piecing together the puzzle of who she might really be. And as he stands there, thinking about it all, Hyun just quietly watches him. Maybe she knows he's having a moment of realization, or maybe she's just curious about his reaction. Chongwook hesitates for a moment, wondering if he should just flat out ask Hyun if she's the mysterious Ariam. But then, he notices the crowd still lingering around them, and the last thing he wants is to have this conversation in front of a bunch of spectators. So, with a casual attempt to seem calm, he suggests they move somewhere quieter, like the department room. Hyun, without hesitation, agrees and follows him. The male students nearby can't help but watch, their eyes glued to the scene unfolding before them. They're baffled at how Hyun follows Chongwook so effortlessly, and they're definitely noticing the difference today, her tight-fitting clothes revealing more of her body than they've ever seen before. She's stunning, and the guys start whispering amongst themselves. One of them even wonders out loud if she's Chongwook's girlfriend, but the others aren't so sure. They can't wrap their heads around it, especially with Ha-yoon's mysterious aura. When they finally reach the department room, Chong-wook is caught off guard by how empty it is. It's eerily quiet, no sign of anyone else. The room seems untouched, almost as if the building itself was in on the secret. Ha-yoon breaks the silence, asking him what it is that he wanted to talk about. That's when it hits him. He's not sure how to ask her. What if she isn't Ariam? What if this whole thing falls apart in his face?